Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Sunny, and welcome to episode 14 of Spotlights with Sarah. I know it's been a hot second, but this is the first time we've actually had a district officer on one of these calls. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let our guest introduce herself, but this is somebody that I actually have had the pleasure of rooming with at TLS, spending a lot of time with her, and I've had just the best time getting to learn more about District 5 and just what she does. So, go ahead and introduce yourself. Just let us know what officer position you, I guess, served in now and how many years you've been in DECA and all of that great stuff.
Of course. Hi, my name is Tanu Duggirala, and I'm the Vice President of Outreach for District 5 DECA. And I've been in DECA, so this is my third year now. And I was actually part of the team that started our chapter at our school. And our very first year going to an in-person competition was the year that I decided to run for districts. And here we are today.
Of course, and District 5 is located kind of in that Austin area. So next year, which is Power Trip, will be hosted over there, which is super exciting. But so I like to call District 5's officer team for the 2022-2023 school year the like girl power team. Three amazing, amazing girls lead such a great district. And it's very rare that I find somebody who fully understands what it's like to lead in this capacity because a lot of districts, or I guess states, don't have that same capacity for district officers the way that Texas interacts. That Texas really gives a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things. And I think that just comes from the fact that we have such large individual districts that require a lot of thought to put together. So before we actually get started into some of those questions, I did want to quickly ask, how was your guys' district conference?
It was actually wonderful. And going off of the whole like girl power thing, we literally have a group chat called District 5 Girl Bosses, and that's where we make all of our planning. And it was an interesting experience hosting an event that was that large. And this year was like the highest numbers we've ever seen, almost 2,000 competitors compared to last year's like 1,200, 1,300-ish competitors, I believe, which was a huge jump. So it was kind of like a learning curve, but it was really interesting and fun to meet everyone. We had a leadership summit a couple months back last year. And so we got to meet the officers. We knew a lot of the chapter officers that were there locally, but we'd never gotten to interact with our district as a whole before. And this was great. This was amazing. And furthermore, we got to talk to all of the new candidates and like interviews, and we just got to see how like every single year there's like a new perspective that is brought even like on a district level, and how every year there's like changing needs and changing people that are bringing forth what it needs to like create the change that people need. So it was just really nice to see everyone in one place.
Absolutely. And I have to say, a lot of that was really similar to what District 7 saw this year. We had the most amount of competitors that we've ever had, coupled with the idea that we had so many members in general, which obviously not all members compete, but we had quite a few people compete. We had a bunch of judges. I think, honestly, we were feeling a little bit cramped in the space that we were, which usually isn't the case because the Irving Convention Center is very large. But we were starting to realize, yeah, we have a lot of people now. And I think that has to come with the fact that Texas DECA hit 19,000 members this year, which is absolutely crazy. I remember I like got that email and I was just like, I'm writing that on the board at our DECA classroom. There are people who didn't know what DECA was that were walking and being like, cool. But it was really fun to kind of see that and share that with so many people that had contributed to that membership. So moving on, tell us a little bit more about your DECA journey. That's kind of the purpose of this series, to really spotlight each individual leader's individual journeys. And what were some struggles that you faced throughout your time in DECA, but also what were your highs, the things that made you feel like you were on top of the world?
Well, I think it's wonderful that you're doing this because the beauty of DECA is, in fact, the diversity of not only like people, but like the experiences that are brought together. And suddenly you're in an environment where you're completely different from the person next to you, but you have that common point, which is DECA, to be able to like, interact over. And for me, it's actually a very like different journey than normal. I talk about this story all the time. It's really funny, but the first time I had ever heard about DECA was through my mom, because she was like scrolling on Facebook, right? She was scrolling on Facebook, and then she saw someone from another school that was like, on stage, all the blue lights, holding her like deck of glass, right? And she turns around and she goes, why aren't you like this? Like, why isn't this you? Very classic mom behavior. But after that, I kind of started researching more into what DECA was. Our school doesn't really have a very strong business program. We only have like two, three basic business classes and like one business teacher, which we didn't have freshman year. So it was very, very hard getting a chapter started. So I spent all of my freshman year kind of like collaborating with our principal and APs to get a business teacher hired so that we could have a chapter. So we finally got it started in my sophomore year. And since then, it's genuinely just been crazy. First year, we had, I believe, 60 or so members, maybe less than that. And this year, we are at 150 members. And we had 120 compete for states, and almost 60 people are, compete for districts, and almost 60 people are advancing to states. And the numbers are just like, a quantity measure, but spirit wise, it's just crazy the amount of exposure that DECA gives not only to our district, but on a chapter level. Because here in our school now we have students that didn't even have the opportunity to take a business class that are able to compete in very, very niche business, like, competitions and such. And so through this process, so it started in COVID year, right? So my sophomore year was in COVID year. So we never had like an in-person conference until last year. And that was when I decided to run for district. It was totally on a whim because I wasn't expecting it, because I've never even been to a DECA event at that point, right? So I did that, and then I ended up getting district officer, and I went on to states. I got to meet amazing people like you, and ICDC last year was such a blast. And I've brought back all of that spirit in form of social media. I'm very active on my social media. And now our chapter is like super hyped
Yeah,
for the upcoming states and ICDC.
for sure. And, I think your story is genuinely one that I find the most inspiring to new members, because I think a lot of people have started to venture into the idea of this sounds cool, but they don't know how to start it, because there are a lot of areas that maybe don't have that same exposure to DECA, and their exposure is through social media, which is what makes social media so great for things such as DECA. But I think, first of all, just to talk about some of the things that you did, the idea that you were able to bring that much growth in your chapter, but not just in terms of membership, in terms of their spirit, and also just in terms of qualification, is literally insane. So a huge congratulations to you for being a part of making that truly happen, because I think that's truly what it means to be a DECA leader, somebody who is going out continuously advocating for members, advocating for DECA, which in light of CTE month is kind of perfect, and just continuously pushing those boundaries to truly get the edge. So a huge props to you for doing all of those things, because
But I would say it truly is just like I helped initiate it, but it really is like the spirit of all the other people that are in the chapter and district that has made it what it is today. So
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Just my favorite part is whenever I meet a new member, or I think I actually have this one interaction that I will speak about at districts this year. So there's a few things that happened, and actually when we get to a certain section on our question list, I'll go ahead and like share that story more in depth. But what actually ended up happening is that we had concession stands. They had like concessions up at the convention center, and they were on separate floors, but in the area where everyone was holding, I was getting this frozen pizza. It wasn't very good, but it was what I needed. So I was getting this pizza. It was a really, really long line. But then I was like, okay, well, we have to get ready for business election session and everything like that. And I saw these members, and they were just talking. And I think one of my favorite parts is when they don't realize that you are a district officer or something, because I want to be able to hear their genuine reactions to the conference and not have them sugarcoat it. But they were just genuinely like, and I was standing next to my partner too. So they were just like, this is my first conference and I love it and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, I turned around and I spoke to them. And I was like, that makes me so genuinely happy, because districts last year was my first conference, even though I'm a junior now, but COVID year was my freshman year. So I similar to you, I got elected at my first in-person conference, which I don't think I've actually ever been to an in-person conference and not had something else going on. Like ICDC was voting delegates, and no, well, state was canceled for us. We were virtual. So I
Right.
guess that was our thing for that year. But there was just a lot of times where I was just genuinely just so appreciative of the members that had such a positive reaction to how our district conferences went this year. But absolutely, I think that the members are truly what make DECA. And I know we say that all the time, but it's moments like those where you genuinely realize how much like you love that. So for sure, which brings us to the next part about what's it like being a district officer. I know I've spoken about my experience, but it's different for different sizes of districts, different locations. So what was it like being a district officer, and how do you manage your time between DECA and your many other things on your schedule?
Great question. So, first off, being a district officer for me is a very, very special thing because I feel like I get a level of connectivity with the people that I'm meant to serve that I wouldn't get at like other positions. As a district officer, I am very, very active on our Texas DECA 5 social media, and I'm making sure that every single piece of information that we get is pushed out so that everyone is prepared to their best extent. And that's one of like the biggest responsibilities that comes with being a district officer too. And moreover, one thing that I really love about being in this position is how it lets you be available for your members, right? Like they know a face that is relatively similar, lives close to them, same like high school or district or whatever it may be, that they can like DM or reach out to. And they're like, hey, this is my question. I know it's kind of silly, but is there any way that you can help? And having like some kind of people to like do that is very, very important when you're looking to grow. And it's like my pleasure to be able to help with that. And that's something that I've done a lot this year. And as for how I manage my schedules. Um, Starting this in junior year was kind of difficult because the whole like college application process, taking the SATs, all of that like kind of fell under the same umbrella of time as not only running for districts, but like being a district officer. And one of the biggest things though is DECA has never been work for me. For
Mhm.
me, DECA is like a hobby or passion. You know how we watch TV. When you watch TV, you're not like, I have to block off this time to go watch
Right.
TV. It's just like something that you do in like your free time. It's like it is fun, right? And for me, it's always been that way. And I think that's really helped me make sure that I can give it my best. I've definitely fallen behind sometimes with like social media posting and everything because life can get crazy. But it's all about like pulling yourself back together, understanding that you're not just doing this for you, but for the people that you're serving, and that the responsibility is more than just that. And I think that's really helped me, like, calendar, prioritize, and do my best for that.
For sure. And I agree with that. Like, every once in a while, you definitely fall behind on those social media posts, or maybe you forget to submit one of your forms or something like that. But I will say that at the end of the day, for me, obviously, there's a lot of responsibility associated with serving in the district officer or state, whatever position that you're a part of. And even if you're a chapter officer, it's the same thing. It's just different levels of connectivity that I've actually realized. And I think kind of serving in both those positions simultaneously kind of made me understand those differences. I get a lot of direct interaction with members more often at my chapter, obviously, but I get to see the overall impact of DECA at a larger scale through district office. So definitely some of those differences, but DECA has always been an honor and a joy and just fun to serve in and be a part of. And it's because there's so many people that genuinely feel comfortable talking to you. So yeah, I definitely agree. I've gotten a bunch of DMs, a bunch of comments even, or even just text messages from people who know another person that are like, hey, can you help them with this? And it is always so thrilling to be able to be like, yes, I know what to do. I can help them. And that's genuinely the best part of serving in any sort of leadership position, but specifically just from our experience in serving at a district officer position. So absolutely. And as for managing time, I know that you have your schedule. You schedule stuff out. I remember we were texting about that because this interview got rescheduled a few times due to some complications. And then just, might as well like put it out there. Like my Zoom wasn't working today. So there are some other things, but just in general, I think that it comes from adaptability when you're continuously doing different things. Like, okay, well, if something's changed, you got to do this. But other than that, it's just about, can you plan your time accordingly? And DECA has always been fun. So there's no reason to consider it like a chore.
Yes, exactly.
So next up is, what event do you compete in? I don't think I know the answer to this one. And what are some of your accolades and tips within that?
Sure. So for the past 2 years, not this year, I did innovation plan, and this year I'm doing entrepreneurship individual series. So last year's I've done a written event, and this is my
Right.
first time doing a role play, and so I'm kind of like experiencing both worlds. Last year, I was a state finalist for innovation plan, and I was a voting delegate at ICDC. And this year, hopefully, we make it to ICDC for that glass. But I would say it's been fun getting to learn about the other kind of segment of competitions. I know that most DECA members kind of like categorize it into written events and role plays, and you kind of just like stick to one or the other because it's just more comfortable. But by doing both of these events, I've started to understand, like, yes, there's similarities, but also the differences between those two. So now when I'm talking to members, I can like confidently say, like, hey, if you're someone who needs that, like I know exactly what I'm going to do once I get there, and I'm thorough and I'm prepared and I'm going to put in like 20 hours into this type person, you're definitely a written event person. But if you're the type of person who wants that challenge, that like on your feet thinking, and the chance to be able to just use the knowledge that you have and apply it almost immediately, that's like role play for you. That's like very much your type of jazz. And or you could be someone that has fun in both. And I think that's me. I really love doing written event because I did it with a partner, and we had lots and lots of fun looking at problems in our real world and how we can remedy them and creating that innovation like plan report. We had lots and lots of fun. But this year doing a role play, I'm just having just as much fun because I know, like, the basic like terminologies using Quizlet, the performance indicators, all of that to study, but I'm able to like apply it right then and there. And that like competitive spirit is something
Yeah,
that's very catchy and very, very fun to do. So that's kind of like my little competition umbrella.
for sure. And I will say, I definitely, I just heard innovation plan. I got super excited because I do startup. So very much in the same lane. They're almost the same event, but
Yes.
startup just has more finances attached to it.
Hmm.
But literally, I will say at times, I remember my first, because I think I wasn't necessarily expecting, and I've spoken about this multiple times, but our chapter is split up into a vice president, a president, and then written and role play officers. And some of those officers double as social media officers or school store managers or whatever that looks like. So my freshman year, I competed. We did very well at ICDC. And then I got elected for vice president, which is, the second person at the top there. I was very much, I think I was just intimidated, that idea where you have imposter syndrome. You didn't necessarily know if I didn't know if I was fit for that position. And I think it was one of those learning experiences where I learned to be more confident in myself, which prepared me for things such as district office. So it was very important. But when I was serving in that vice president capacity alongside our president at the time, Kathana, who also served for state office and district office for D7, and we both hadn't ever competed in a role play. So when we were figuring stuff out with amongst our officer team, and people would go to the vice president or president to ask a question about a role play, there was a moment where I was just like, "Why?" I was like, "You're gonna have to talk to somebody else, and I'm gonna find that person for you." But it was then my mission to learn how to do a role play. And it wasn't that I couldn't do impromptu speaking. I'm an extemporator. I do debate. I've done it for 3 years of high school, but those skills do translate. It's just not the same thing in terms of format. So I made it my mission to learn, okay, this role play does this. And I'm still not 100% on some things, but I can confidently say that I can speak to a member about what the differences are like, even having not competed in that. But I think competition obviously gives you the best firsthand real world experience about what that looks like. But I will say it was definitely my mission to learn some of those things, not just translate into leadership entirely. There are times when you're not going to know the answer. And it's there I mean, I don't like to say I don't know. I like to say I'm going to find out for you, or I'm going to find you somebody who knows the answer to that.
I
Because
think
go ahead.
oh, sorry. I think it's really nice that you mentioned that because really um as people that are supposed to be the head or like the leader of something, it's really hard to, like easy to get caught up in what do I know, what do I not know, am I going to be able to help them? But at the end of the day, it's all about you trying your best and knowing the people that you can connect them to so that they can exceed. And I think that's also like the beauty of DECA. It's like an organization run by students for students, and you're able to learn by doing. I know, kind of like as you said, so like the whole written event role play thing, being an officer. For me, since our chapter had just started out, no one knew any of the information, right? Like no one knew absolutely anything. So it was all about like getting out of my comfort zone. I talked to a lot of people, all of like other officers in other schools, and we still collaborate with other schools all the time now to try to understand, get tips and tricks, get advice and incorporate it into our own thing. And one thing that really helped, and this is like a tip for absolutely everyone if you don't already do so, is always get in partners or groups and help judge other people, because then you're able to like see through the mindset of a judge, right? You have the rubric out in front of you and you know exactly what kind of thought process they're going to go through, so that when you're presenting to a judge, it's like you can kind of replicate what it is that you were looking for when you were doing it the other way. And things like that have really helped out. And I think connectivity is one of the biggest perks of DECA that I'm all for.
Absolutely. And I like to pride ourselves in our school really helping with that. We do a lot of Saturdays, which our Saturdays are come up. It's like we actually just had our second print party of the year, which we call it print party because in the past you used to have to print your papers
Yeah.
and submit them for competition. Now it's just all digital, but we still call it the print party and it's just submissions for papers. But we also had some people practicing, but usually when we have those Saturdays, it's pretty long. It's like 10 to 2 or something. And so we're all there. The officers are judging, and we have like sign up geniuses. They have time slots for when they're coming into practice. And it's literally just that. When the officers are there, are judging, they understand how to lead their events. They understand how to do their events. And that's the reason. And I will absolutely brag about this because it is the first time in a long time this has happened for a school. We had 100% of our officers qualify for state this year.
Why?
Yeah, so all 14 of us qualified. And yeah, we have a really big officer team. So that definitely hasn't happened in a while. And I think, sometimes it just is up to luck in some cases about what your judge was like. But I will say I was very, very proud. And I think it's because of those Saturdays when we were continuously working. And so we've continuously done that. And I know the districts do mock competitions as well. So D7 had ours in Hearst, Texas at this convention center. And it was very big, very fun. It was 2 days. So we stayed in like a hotel nearby. Yeah, it was a lot. So definitely all of those things that get you prepped and just understanding how competitions run make you understand how to better present. So this is like the question that I wanted to ask because I have a story that I'll share after you share yours, which is what is your funniest moment in DECA? Like those moments where something just like really, really funny happened and you're just on the floor laughing. I think they happen more in teams. I've said that before, like when you're in groups of people, but yeah.
Okay, this is like funny and fun, right? Leading up to our district CDC, me and my officers, we decided to like meet up for brunch to also like film content. And so we came there like casual, like button up type thing. And then we also brought our suits just in case we wanted to like make very specific DECA content. And so we ended up like spending the rest, like 2 hours in Target with suits on,
Oh, wait.
running around and making um DECA content. And it was really funny because we would like have to like set up the camera and go back and film, and there would be people like walking by, and anytime someone walked by we would just like turn around like, yeah, what, huh, yeah, we're not filming right now. And it's one of our highlights, I feel, as a district officer team, and it was so much fun. And we made some, I think with DECA, the cringier that you can get, the better. We made really, really funny content that's on our District 5 like page. Shameless shout. You guys should go check that out if you want to watch a TikTok
Might
or
as well
two.
just like check out TX Deca 7 while you're at it. Um, but yeah, I've seen the TikTok and it turned out great, but
It
I
was
was
so
really,
funny.
I think the number one question was like, how did they make this? Which is really funny, for sure. And so I've shared, some funny moments about what's happened to me before, but I have a new one to add to the list because this happened at district conference. So,
Oh,
and I can laugh about it now, but in the moment, I was really so basically, I was on stage, we did opening and we had started, and so we didn't have so we knew what time that we were going to be competing, as people usually do when they're serving because you have so many places that you have to eat.
yeah.
So we were like in the first time slot, or first or
Mhm.
second time slot, I think maybe second actually, but like I had gotten off stage and we had our stuff in this like locked room because that's where the district officers would, do certain things where money was getting counted, all that stuff. So I went in there and I grabbed our poster and our computer, or no, I didn't grab the computer. That's the problem. So I
Oh,
grabbed my poster, and I grabbed like a printout copy of her paper,
uh-huh.
walked, and we took an elevator to go to the next floor. We were like on floor number 4 or something. I get there, we get checked in, we're in line. My partners look at me, they're like, where's the computer? We didn't realize until we were upstairs. And so at this point, we have 3 minutes before we're about to present
Uh-oh.
a computer. So I mean, like I think it was just because I was on stage, and so like I immediately like, okay, we have to go. So it was right there, and I didn't grab it. But I literally look at them and I was like, I'm gonna fix this. So I ran down 3 flights of escalators in 2 minutes.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it with heels on. So I got there and I grabbed the computer and like, well, no, I didn't because the door was locked. It was a locked room. So I called our officer coordinator and I said, oh my gosh, we're about to present. I don't have my computer. Please unlock the door for me. And she's like, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. So she unlocks the door and then she just walks with me to get to her competition. She's like, just breathe. You're not gonna like get all flushed before you present. She's like, you're fine. They're usually not on time anyways. You're fine. So we were on this elevator and I'm just like I'm having like a heat flash, right? I'm just like, I just ran down that fast. So I got there at 10:01 and our competition was supposed to start at 10, but they were like starting at 10:05. So got there at 10:01 and my partners, they told me later on that the lady that there was an advisor that was checking us in. And so she's like, they asked, well, we don't want to present without our partner. And so they're like, well, I mean, you can stand there and not start when they call time, but that's going to be part of your 15 minutes. And they didn't have a computer, so like, well, can't be off her slides. And so I'd gotten there and it was the look on the relief, like the look of relief on their faces when they saw me, they're just like, huh. And they were like fanning me. They're like, you're okay, you're fine, we're gonna go kill this. And then we qualified for state. But I remember going down to our advisor afterwards and I was like, you are not gonna believe what I just did. But yeah, so it's funny now, but like even as explaining that story, it was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that was it's every conference, every single time, there's always something.
There's
Uh,
always something.
It's always something.
But it's
So
too working under pressure and like still
yeah,
make
it was just like so much going on in that day. So it's just like, okay, that's of course evidently what had happened. But so the last question is, if you could give any piece of advice to members or just anybody who's looking to join DECA, what would it be?
I know this one off the back of my head because I give it all the time and it is simply, and this is so Nike, but simply do it. Just do it. Um I think even outside of this organization, there is so much out there for you to be able to grab, for you to be able to do, as long as you just take that first step of initiation. DECA is like one of the biggest parts of my life today. And if I hadn't taken the initiation and gone through the struggle of working with our administrators to get a chapter started, I would just be missing a whole chapter of my life right now. And moreover, whether that be district officer positions or running for in my competitions, whatever it may be, every single time, even if it resulted in failure, I've never regretted taking a step forward. And that is something that I will preach till the day I die. It doesn't matter if you think you're not qualified, it doesn't matter if you think you're not worthy. Change it and do it. Just simply do it. And I think it's something that's very relevant to like people our age, students. Um, the student card is something that I really think everyone needs to use. And I don't just mean this as like discounts in stores, right? I mean more so like there are so many people out there, both in the professional world and personal world, that are so ready to help you with whatever it is that you need because you're a student and they've been in your shoes at a point. So the best answer you can get is a yes, and the worst that you can get is simply a no. So there is no harm in asking for help, asking to work on projects, asking for internship, job opportunity, whatever it is. Just simply put yourself out there, do it, and you will not regret what happens after.
I don't know if there's anything else I can add to that, because that is genuinely the best piece of advice that you could give anybody who's looking to join in DECA. And I will say I have never, and even those moments when you forget your computer before walking into a district competition, I still don't regret those moments, because next time hopefully that won't happen. But also I can look back at that with fondness and just think wow, we made that happen, because we were determined to really push, to really do well at that competition. And I will say, as I was running down those stairs, I was just thinking there's no way that this is how we don't make it to state. But so it all worked out in the end, and it will, as long as you just do it. So definitely agree with all that. And thank you so much, Tanu, for joining me today for Spotlights with Sarah.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. So it's definitely been a hot second since we've released one of these episodes, but I am very, very honored that I got to speak with you, and I can't wait to see you at state. I've not seen you in person for so long. It's been so long. Yeah, but that's okay. So we're gonna see each other. I'm gonna see all of D5. I'm gonna love it, and you might see me in a different capacity there as well. So
okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
of course, and thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure to check out episode 15 coming at some point, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.